Okay, so real quickly, this is kind of the end of the video series. There's 3 videos in this little series, and this is the end of it. I'm coming on now basically to tell you that I've had to split this series into smaller portions so that they're about 20 minutes long, because this particular video that you're seeing the end of here is a little over an hour long. So what we'll do is I'll split those off into 20-minute sections, and you will end up here. But I just wanted you to know, so the video will abruptly end. It will say the end, and view the next one. And I thank you for watching, and we will catch you when this is over. I'll try to make the new ones much shorter. Thank you. Welcome back. This is episode 2. I'm your host, Tim Hayde, Clean Air Vapors. And hopefully you've found your way here to the Filemaker Pro Dashboard. This is what it should look like. You should be on the table menu, and this should be exit layout and not edit layout. And you notice the difference. If it is an edit layout button, just press the edit layout button, and you will have access to manage your databases, relationships, privileges, and all those other neat things. We will cover the security issues, and we will cover basically letting people who's going to do what on your system and how they can actually do those things on your system. But some of the things that we're going to do today is we're going to go right back into managing our database, and we're going to do our invoice. So one of the first things that you're going to need is, as always, the invoice ID, and that is a number field. And then we're going to need some pretty basic things. This one we're not going to need dates or anything. Like I said, this is more the mathematical part than it is anything else. So we're going to need a product ID. It's a number. We're going to need a product name. We're going to need a quantity. That's how many did you sell of a specific product. So selling 1 at a time or 10 at a time or whatever the case might be. So you will need the product. You will need a let's do price, and we will enter that. And then we're going to need two prices. So we're going to need the second price to be an NT price. And what NT stands for is no tax. Now, you may not need this in your store, but if you sell beverages here in Wyoming, like something to drink, water, we do not tax this in Wyoming food products. So you will need to be able to have a non-taxable price set into your system. And then we're going to need a calculated price. And so what I typically do is I will do a C and then an underscore. And the calculated price works out really well because the price here, this particular price and this particular price, these are for individual units. This is price per each one. And this calculated price will be a calculated price for the total. Here, let me just go ahead and do it. We'll create it, and then you'll know what it's for. So the calculated price is actually the quantity times the price. Pretty simple. This really helps us out if you are putting in a number and you're selling 5 or 6 or 10 of them, then this will automatically calculate that price out for you, and it does a very good really helps out, I suppose. We are going to need a summary field. So summary or summary S underscore. As soon as my brain cell catches up to what the rest of me is doing, there we go. So we are going to need a summary subtotal. Total. And the summary subtotal is actually going to be a summary of the C price. And now we are going to need a calculated price. Let's see, we are going to need a we're going to need a tax. So, didn't want to do that. Cancel. Don't want that to be a summary. We just want that to be a number, and we're going to create the tax. And so what this is, and we're just going to go ahead and put the data in here, is this is how much tax would you charge normally. So in the state of Wyoming, it's 5%, so it's 0.05, and it will automatically enter that data as you put that system in together. How it works, it's quite brilliant, actually, quite brilliant altogether. So we now have the tax. Now you have a price no tax and you have a regular price. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a summary field, and we're going to say price no tax, create. Look at that. See, I wrote number, and it should be a summary field. So we actually had this as a number, and it needs to be a summary field, so we're going to change it. Remember, don't ever push a duplicate button. So what this field says, Filemaker Pro, when changing a field to a calculation or a summary, Filemaker will replace any of the data in the field with the result of the formula. Now, as it were just now starting this, we're putting this system together, it doesn't really matter. But if you were to say, okay, later on, let's say you were making a major change to your system, it will, by pressing OK, you will make a major change to your system. Don't make that change. This is a summary of the price no tax. And so we just click on that, and it says summary of price no tax. And I like to name my things like that just so that I know what they all are. Now here we will need a summary of the as soon as I think of it, the price no tax, and then we will need a total of the C price. So that's the summary of that. That actually works out pretty well. Let's call that good. We will need a grand total as well. And the grand total is actually a calculation field, so I'm going to make it a C grand total. And we're going to make that into a calculation and create it. Now it's going to want to know, what exactly is it that you want to calculate? So what we need to calculate is the summary subtotal. So this is all of the product that you just sold. And then you want to multiply that by your tax base. And then you want to add the subtotal, the summary subtotal, plus the summary price no tax. And so what will happen is I could change the tax to a 1.05 should I want to. But if I were to make a button that specifically controls just the tax, how much did you pay in tax, then I would not be able to do that. So here what we'll do is we'll put tax due, and the tax due will be a calculation, and we will create that. And what the tax due is the subtotal times the tax. And now this button, this tax due, will actually give me a complete picture of what I need to do. So I could go back and change this grand total to a better calculation. I could say that this calculation could actually be the tax due plus the subtotal plus the summary price no tax, which is just fine. And we could probably get rid of this tax thing here, but for now let's just leave them the way they are. I know that this particular function works for me. It's worked in the past, so if we do have an issue when we're building the system, we will go back and we'll make that change. And then so we now need the grand total is the total due, so we need a tendered amount, and the tendered amount is just a number, and it's what did someone pay you, what did someone give you, and then we will need a change due button, and that is actually a calculation. And so the change due is it's going to be the amount tendered minus the grand total. What that does is if someone comes in and they give you a $20 bill and their total bill, the grand total was $19.37, the change due will show you how much they actually owe, 63 cents, or how much you have to pay them back, how much change is that particular customer due. So we have the product ID, the price, all of this neat stuff, but we now need a way to we're going to need to attach it to this register and see. So you know that I have an invoice IDFK and it's an auto enter serial number. So let's go to our relationships tab over here, and let's just move some things around, just kind of make some sense of what we're doing to start with. And so what I want to do is I want to tie my register to my invoice, and I can do it either which way. I like the register to kind of be on top like this, and then this to be like over here. And so I'm going to take the invoice ID K, and I just clicked on it, and now I'm going to hold the left click button. I'm going to slide over, and I'm going to attach it to this ID, the invoice ID. And now I'm going to double click on this. And what this sign says is this is equal to, and here it says is equal to. So you can change it to is not equal to, is less than, is equal to or less than, or not even at all. These are not related at all, but we actually want them to be related. And we're looking at the register table and the invoice table are related, and we want the invoice IDFK to be related to the invoice ID. And we want to be able to create records on both of these, and you can do I want to delete records on both of these should you want to, But I like to keep all of my records in a very safe place, and so I don't want those records to be deleted for any reason on either side. So if I were to have a record that was orphaned, that's what would create an orphaned record. Now these two, the relationships between the register and the invoice, are very pivotal to each other. So you would want to delete records in both of those should you delete one or the other. And the reason why is, let's say you're testing or you're training and you are creating invoices left and right while you're training, and then you need to go back and delete those invoices. If all you did was allow the creation of records, you wouldn't actually be able to delete those invoices at all. You'd literally have to go into the register and delete the register one, and then go into the invoice one and delete the invoice one. And because these are so closely tied to each other, because they're the same page, they're on the same page, as you'll notice as we're building this, you'll see that these are both on the same page, that it's so much easier if we just tie them together completely, and then that way if we want to just delete an invoice number, it will delete the whole invoice. So we're going to go ahead and say that is okay. And we're going to need to recreate that exact same thing over here with the register to and the invoice to. And so if we went into this one and we went into fields and invoice to, we could very quickly just create an ID field just automatically, and we're just going to make this a number field. So Control N and create it. We now have this invoice to. We can go back to the relationships table. We can take the invoice IDFK, and there it is. Now we have it, and then we can go back in and we can put in all the rest of the data, which is identical to this data. We definitely do not want to, we're going to do the exact same thing here. We definitely do not want to go into the fields of this and copy them by Control A. Oh, look at that! It wouldn't even let me do it. Normally you can Control A things. Well, here apparently you can't. I wonder if I select it and then I shift and I select. Okay, so if you select the first one and then you hold shift and then you select the bottom one, there they all are, and then you could Control C and Control V, which would copy and paste them. Do not do that. Do not duplicate those. I cannot stress that enough, because by duplicating them, what you're doing is you're marrying them together, and any changes on this one would make a change on the other one. And so we don't want to do that. We want to go ahead and put all this information in the exact same way. So I would suggest writing them down on a separate piece of paper so that you know exactly how they were in the original system, and then all you got to do is add them into your other system. And we will very likely, I will not bore you with having to go through this again, so I will do that after the fact, and we'll just call it good for now. We actually have what we're looking for. We have our registers are up. We have our invoices up. So just in case I didn't explain that, you'll find that this video is kind of choppy. I've been leaving it though on the screens as I am helping people. I also own a vapor store where I use this system that we're building every day, and when customers come in and the phone rings, I stop and then I start again. But I'm hopefully not missing anything. I have tried desperately not to do absolutely anything while I am not recording, so that you can see what's going on every single step of the way. Some of the things that we did not do currently is we did not add any register monitor information, and we have added no real data to the admin portal, but that's fine. We don't really need to do that. For the register, we can create a very quick ID on the register monitors, both 1 and 2. We will obviously do these when we need them. When we start developing that page, we'll start figuring out what fields we're going to need and get those so that we can have them populated by our scripting. So for now, let's just call this good, and let's work on developing our page. So the first thing that we're going to want to do right off the bat is let's expand what we've got here. So